This podcast is brought to you by Emperor.top at the stories of top companies. Disclaimer. This AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. Keysight Technologies, from HP's garage to the future of electronic measurement, November 1st, 2014. Ron Nersessian stands before a packed auditorium at Keysight's Santa Rosa headquarters, the same campus that once housed HP's test and measurement division. Behind him, a new logo glows on the screen, a stylized key merged with a sine wave. Today, he announces, we become Keysight Technologies. The applause is enthusiastic, but tinged with uncertainty. This company, born from a spin-off of a spin-off, carries DNA stretching back to Bill Hewlett's workbench in 1939. Now it must prove it can thrive alone. The story seems almost absurd at first glance. A company that's been spun off 3 times, each separation supposedly unlocking focus and value. Yet here stands Keysight today with a market capitalization exceeding $30 billion, commanding the electronic test and measurement industry. How did a division buried deep within HP's sprawling empire, then shuffled through Agilent's portfolio, emerge as the definitive leader in 5G testing, network visibility, and quantum computing infrastructure? The answer reveals fundamental truths about corporate strategy, the power of specialization, and the unexpected value creation that can emerge from breaking apart conglomerates. It's a story that begins with an audio oscillator built in a Palo Alto garage and reaches into the quantum laboratories and 6G research centers of tomorrow. In the context of fiscal year 2024, revenue was $4.98 billion, marking an 8.9% decline from the prior year. Yet this descendant of HP's original test and measurement division commands respect and premium valuations that would make its founders proud. The journey from that garage to global leadership traverses not just decades, but fundamental transformations in how companies create focus through separation. What follows is more than a corporate genealogy. It's a masterclass in strategic patience, the counterintuitive value of spin-offs, and how a company that measures everything else finally learned to measure its own potential. As we'll discover, sometimes the best way to grow is to keep dividing.
The oscillator hummed to life in the cramped garage at 367 Addison Avenue, Palo Alto. Bill Hewlett adjusted the frequency dial while Dave Packard scribbled notes. It was late 1938, and they were perfecting what would become the Model 200A audio oscillator, a device that could generate precise audio frequencies for testing sound equipment. The price? $54.40, deliberately chosen because it sounded like an established company's product number, not their actual first product. Walt Disney Studios needed something extraordinary for Fantasia. The film's revolutionary Fantasia sound system required unprecedented audio precision, multiple channels, synchronized playback, something that had never been attempted in cinema. Disney's sound engineers discovered HP's modified 200B oscillators could deliver the stability and range they needed. They ordered 8 units. That $430 order didn't just launch a company. It validated an engineering philosophy that would define Silicon Valley. Build instruments so precise they enable others to create the impossible. The birthplace of Silicon Valley. That garage is now a California historical landmark, bronze plaque, and all. But in 1939, it was simply where 2 Stanford engineering graduates with $538 in working capital decided to flip a coin to determine whose name went first. Packard won, but insisted on Hewlett-Packard because it sounded better. This small gesture, putting the partner first, embodied what would later be codified as the HP way: respect for individuals, trust in people, and management by wandering around. The test and measurement division wasn't initially separate from anything. It was the company. Through the 1940s and 1950s, HP built oscilloscopes, signal generators, voltmeters, and frequency counters. Each product addressed a specific measurement challenge that Hewlett or Packard had encountered or heard about from customers. They didn't just build instruments. They built relationships with engineers who needed to measure the unmeasurable. The measurement empire expands. By the 1960s, HP had become the world's leading electronic test and measurement company. The HP 5060A cesium beam atomic clock introduced in 1964, could keep time to within 1 second over 3,000 years. NASA used HP equipment to monitor the Apollo missions. Every major electronics manufacturer relied on HP instruments to verify their designs. But something else was stirring in the company. In 1966, HP entered the computer business with the HP 2116A, designed initially to control HP's test instruments. This wasn't a pivot. It was an expansion. The company realized that as electronic systems grew more complex, the instruments to test them needed computational power. The test and measurement division and the computer division grew in parallel, each feeding innovations to the other. The paradox of success. By the 1990s, HP had become a $31 billion colossus spanning everything from printers to medical equipment to test instruments. The company that started by making one thing extraordinarily well now made hundreds of things pretty well. The test and measurement division, though still innovative, competed for resources with faster-growing computer and printer businesses. CEO Lou Platt faced an impossible balancing act. Wall Street wanted focus. The computer business needed massive R&D investments to compete with Dell and Compaq. The printer division was a cash cow that deserved its own strategy. In the test and measurement division, the company's soul was becoming lost in the shuffle. In March 1999, Platt announced the unthinkable. HP would split in two. The computer and printer businesses would remain HP. The test and measurement, medical, and chemical analysis divisions would become something new. Agilent Technologies. The company that Bill and Dave built would divide itself to multiply its potential. The cultural inheritance. The announcement triggered soul-searching throughout HP. Which company would inherit the true HP way? Where would Bill and Dave's legacy live? Hewlett, then 86, and Packard, 87. Blessed the split, but offered no guidance on succession. In a sense, both companies would carry the DNA forward. HP through its mass-market innovation, Agilent through its precision engineering culture. The test and measurement engineers who would become Agilent employees felt both liberated and orphaned. They were free from competing with printers for investment, but they'd lost the HP name that opened doors worldwide. As one veteran engineer recalled, "We went from being the original HP business to being the spin-off. It was like the parents kept the house and we got sent to start over." Yet this ending was also a beginning. The test and measurement business that had enabled Disney's Fantasia and NASA's moon landing was about to embark on its own journey, one that would require 2 more separations before finding its true identity as Keysight.
November 18th, 1999. The opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange rang differently that morning. Ned Barnholt, Agilent's newly minted CEO, stood on the podium surrounded by employees wearing purple, the company's new signature color, chosen to stand apart from HP Blue. Agilent's IPO at $30 per share raised $2.1 billion, making it Silicon Valley's largest IPO to date. By day's end, the stock had soared to $45, valuing the company at nearly $20 billion. "We're not the new HP," Barnholt told reporters. "We're the original HP, now free to focus." The message was clear. Agilent would return to the innovation roots that Hewlett and Packard had planted, unburdened by the PC and printer wars that consumed the parent company. Building independence. The euphoria masked enormous challenges. Agilent inherited 43,000 employees across 40 countries, but no independent IT systems, no separate real estate agreements, and, surprisingly, no unified culture. The test and measurement engineers in Santa Rosa had little in common with the medical equipment teams in Boston or the chemical analysis groups in Delaware. They'd been divisions of HP. Now they needed to become one company. Barnholt, a 30-year HP veteran who'd run the test and measurement division, understood the delicate balance required. Push too hard for integration, and you'd destroy the entrepreneurial spirit of each division. Move too slowly, and you'd never achieve the operational synergies that justified the spin-off. The first crisis came faster than expected. By March 2000, just 4 months after the IPO, the dot-com bubble burst. Agilent's customers, telecommunications equipment manufacturers riding the internet boom, suddenly stopped ordering. The company's revenue plummeted from $10.8 billion in 2000 to $6.0 billion in 2002. The stock fell from its peak of $70 to under $10. The semiconductor detour. Agilent's response revealed both strategic vision and what would later prove to be overreach. The company doubled down on semiconductors, acquiring assets and talent to build a chip testing powerhouse. The logic seemed impeccable. As chips became more complex, testing them would become more valuable. Agilent would be the arms dealer in the semiconductor wars. But semiconductors are cyclical in ways that test and measurement had never been. When the semiconductor industry crashed in 2001 to 2002, Agilent's losses mounted. The company that had never had significant layoffs in its HP incarnation cut 8,000 jobs. Barnholt, the careful steward of HP values, had to become a wartime CEO. The recovery strategy involved a crucial pivot: life sciences. Agilent acquired several companies in bioanalytical measurement, betting that the genomics revolution would create demand for precision instruments, just as electronics had decades earlier. This wasn't abandoning the company's roots, it was extending them. The same expertise that could measure electronic signals could analyze biological ones. The identity crisis deepens. By 2010, Agilent had recovered financially, but faced an identity crisis. The company now had three distinct businesses: electronic measurement, the original HP test division; chemical analysis, spectrometers and chromatographs; and life sciences, gene sequencers and diagnostic tools. Each required different R&D investments, sales channels, and customer relationships. Bill Sullivan, who became CEO in 2005, saw the writing on the wall. The electronic measurement business needed massive investment in 5G wireless technology. The life sciences business needed to pivot toward diagnostics and genomics. Trying to fund both adequately was starving each of necessary resources. In September 2013, Sullivan announced Agilent's second split. The electronic measurement business would be spun off as an independent company. Agilent would keep life sciences and diagnostics, focusing on what Sullivan called the bioanalytical opportunity of the 21st century. Preparing for independence. Again, Ron Nersessian, president of Agilent's electronic measurement group, was tapped to lead the new company. A 30-year veteran who'd started as an R&D engineer, Nersessian understood both the technical complexity and market dynamics of test and measurement. More importantly, he understood the psychological challenge facing employees about to be spun off for the second time. We weren't unwanted, Nersessian would later reflect. We were unlocked. The narrative mattered. This wasn't Agilent discarding its electronic measurement business. It was liberating it to pursue opportunities that required undivided focus and investment. The preparation was meticulous. Unlike the rushed HP split, this separation had 18 months of planning. Independent IT systems were built, supply chains were separated. Most crucially, a new culture was crafted, one that honored the HP heritage while embracing the agility of a $3 billion company competing against $30 billion giants. The name reveal came in January 2014, Keysight Technologies. Key represented the company's role in unlocking measurement insights. Sight captured the vision and clarity these measurements provided. The logo, a stylized key merged with a sine wave, connected the company's future to its oscilloscope past. As November 1st, 2014 approached, the official separation date, employees faced a peculiar situation. They worked in the same buildings with the same customers, making the same products. Yet, they were about to become a different company for the third time in 15 years. The question wasn't whether they could survive another spin-off. It was whether this time, finally, they could thrive.
The email arrived at 12:01 a.m. Pacific Time on November 1st, 2014. Welcome to day one. Ron Nersessian had personally written it at his kitchen table the night before, knowing that employees in Malaysia and China would read it before their California colleagues woke up. Today, we stop being part of something else's story. Today, we start writing our own. By 6 a.m., Nersessian was at the Santa Rosa headquarters, greeting the first arrivals with coffee and branded Keysight notebooks. The symbolism was deliberate, new tools for recording a new chapter. But the market's greeting was less warm. Keysight opened at $37.50, giving it a market cap of approximately $6.6 billion, respectable but not spectacular. Analysts questioned whether a pure-play test and measurement company could generate growth in a mature market. The competitive reality. The landscape Keysight entered was brutal. Tektronix, founded in 1946, had deep relationships with aerospace and defense contractors. Rode and Schwarz, the German giant, dominated European markets with engineering excellence and aggressive pricing. National Instruments appealed to software-defined testing advocates. And increasingly, Chinese competitors like Rigol offered good enough instruments at fraction of the price. Nersesian's first all-hands meeting addressed the elephant in the room. We're not the biggest, we're not the cheapest, but we're the most focused. He outlined 3 strategic pillars that would define Keysight's independent era: software-centric solutions, application-specific expertise, and modular platforms that could evolve with customer needs. The strategy sounded good in PowerPoint. Executing it while maintaining operations was another matter. Keysight had inherited 9,500 employees but needed to hire 500 more in critical areas: software engineers, 5G protocol experts, and high-frequency RF designers. The challenge: convincing top talent to join a spin-off of a spin-off instead of Google, Apple, or Tesla, all competing for the same engineers in the Bay Area. The 5G bet. In December 2014, barely a month after independence, Nersesian made a decision that would define Keysight's trajectory. The company would invest $200 million, nearly 10% of annual revenue, in 5G test capabilities, even though commercial 5G deployment was at least 5 years away. The board was skeptical. The technology didn't even have finalized standards yet. "We're not betting on when 5G arrives," Nersesian explained. "We're betting that whoever helps create the standards will own the testing market." Keysight would partner with chip makers, network equipment manufacturers, and carriers to define what 5G could be. By the time products needed testing, Keysight's instruments would be the de facto standard. The investment went beyond R&D. Keysight created 5G labs in Santa Rosa, Belgium, and Beijing, offering them free to customers and competitors alike for early experimentation. The message was subtle but powerful. Keysight wasn't just selling instruments. It was building an ecosystem. Cultural architecture, creating corporate culture, is usually gradual, organic. Keysight had to be deliberate. Janet Kruger, the chief human resources officer, led what she called cultural architecture and intentionally designing values, behaviors, and rituals that would define the company. The centerpiece was speed, focus, accountability. Unlike the consensus-driven HP way, Keysight would move fast, even if it meant occasional mistakes. Decisions would be pushed down to those closest to customers. Performance would be measured relentlessly, fitting for a measurement company. But culture is revealed in crisis, not conference rooms. The first test came in March 2015, when a major aerospace customer discovered measurement inconsistencies in a batch of signal analyzers. The traditional response would be quiet remediation, minimizing legal exposure. Instead, Nersesian personally called every affected customer, explained the issue, and offered immediate replacements plus extended warranties. The transparency cost $30 million but earned something invaluable: trust. The modular revolution. While 5G grabbed headlines, a quieter revolution was transforming Keysight's business model. Traditionally, test equipment meant big, expensive boxes that became obsolete every few years. Keysight pioneered modular systems, core platforms with swappable modules that could be upgraded via software or hardware additions. The PXI and AXIE modular platforms weren't just products. They were ecosystems. Customers could start with basic configurations and add capabilities as needed. More importantly, Keysight could push software updates that added entirely new measurement capabilities to existing hardware. A box sold in 2014 could test 5G signals in 2019 with just a software upgrade. This wasn't just clever engineering. It was brilliant business model innovation. Recurring software revenues grew from almost nothing to 15% of total revenue within 18 months. Customers who might have delayed purchases during uncertainty now bought platforms knowing they could upgrade later. Year 1 report card. As Keysight approached its first anniversary as an independent company, the results were mixed but encouraging. Revenue for fiscal 2015 came in at $2.9 billion, down slightly from the prior year but better than feared given currency headwinds and weak spending in aerospace and defense. More importantly, orders for 5G-related products were accelerating, validating the early investment. The stock market remained skeptical, with shares trading in the low $30s below the IPO price. But inside Keysight, confidence was building. Employee satisfaction scores exceeded those from the Agilent era. Customer net promoter scores reached record highs. The company had successfully separated from Agilent, established independent operations, and begun transforming its business model. Yet Nersesian knew organic growth wouldn't be enough. At a strategy session in October 2015, he posed a provocative question to his leadership team. What if we could acquire our way into adjacent markets while competitors are distracted by their own reorganizations? The stage was set for Keysight's next chapter, strategic acquisition.
January 30th, 2017, 5:47 a.m. Eastern Time. The news broke on Bloomberg. Keysight to acquire Ixia for $1.60 billion cash. The test and measurement world was stunned. Keysight, with a market cap of just $6 billion, was swallowing a company 1/4 its size. The acquisition would consume most of Keysight's cash reserves and require $500 million in new debt, a massive bet for a company just 2 years into independence. Bethany Mayer, Ixia's CEO, had been fielding acquisition offers for months. Private equity firms circled, seeing opportunity in Ixia's 80% gross margins and dominant position in network visibility. But when Nersesian flew to Ixia's Calabasas headquarters for a secret meeting in December 2016, he brought a different proposition. Join us, and together we'll own the entire network stack. The strategic logic Ixia wasn't a test and measurement company in the traditional sense. While Keysight built instruments that tested physical layer properties, signal integrity, power, frequency, Ixia operated in the digital realm. Their tools tested network protocols, application performance, and security vulnerabilities. They helped Facebook ensure Instagram photos loaded quickly. They helped banks verify that mobile payments were secure. Keysight measures the physics. Ixia measures the experience, Nersesian explained to skeptical analysts. The combination would let Keysight test everything from the radio waves carrying 5G signals to the applications running on top of them. No competitor could match this end-to-end capability. The timing was crucial. 5G wasn't just faster 4G, it was a fundamental architectural shift. Networks would become software-defined, virtualized, and distributed to the edge. Testing these networks required understanding both the physical infrastructure and the virtual overlays. Separately, Keysight and Ixia each had half the solution. Together, they had it all. The negotiation drama. What the press release didn't reveal was how close the deal came to collapse. In January 2017, with due diligence nearly complete, a private equity consortium made an unsolicited bid for Ixia at $1.75 billion, $150 million more than Keysight's offer. Ixia's board had a fiduciary duty to consider it. Nersesian had 48 hours to respond. Raising the bid would require additional debt that could jeopardize Keysight's investment-grade rating. Walking away would mean losing the strategic opportunity and emboldening competitors. Instead, Nersesian made an unconventional move. He invited Ixia's entire leadership team to Keysight's 5G labs. The visit was orchestrated theater. Ixia executives saw demonstrations of millimeter wave testing that wouldn't be commercially available for years. They met with Keysight engineers who spoke fluently about protocol challenges Ixia was trying to solve. Most importantly, they saw a product roadmap where Ixia's capabilities weren't being acquired. They were essential to Keysight's future. Mayer called Nersesian that evening. The PE firms would make us more profitable. You'll make us more important. Ixia's board rejected the higher offer, choosing strategic fit over financial maximization. Integration challenges. The celebration was brief. integrating Ixia proved more complex than anyone anticipated. The companies had incompatible IT systems, different sales compensation models, and surprisingly distinct cultures. Keysight was methodical, engineering-driven, and conservative. Ixia was aggressive, sales-driven, and entrepreneurial. The first integration meeting nearly ended in disaster. Keysight proposed standardizing Ixia's sales commissions to match their own model, lower rates but more predictable. Ixia's top salesperson stood up and announced, "I've got 3 offers from competitors. Who's coming with me?" Half the room raised their hands. Nersesian personally intervened, flying to Calabasas to meet with Ixia's sales team. Instead of imposing Keysight's model, he created a hybrid. Ixia salespeople could choose their compensation structure for 18 months while results were measured. The data would determine the go-forward approach. It was classic Keysight. Let measurement decide. The network security pivot. 6 months into the integration, an unexpected opportunity emerged. Ixia's network visibility tools, originally designed for performance testing, were increasingly being used for security applications. Companies needed to see encrypted traffic, detect anomalies, and identify threats, capabilities that overlapped with but extended beyond traditional testing. Mark Pierpoint, who'd led Ixia's product development, proposed a radical idea: spin out a dedicated network security division. Not a separate company, but a distinct business unit with its own P&L, sales force, and development team. It would compete not with traditional test companies, but with security vendors like Palo Alto Networks and FireEye. The board was skeptical. Keysight had just spent $1.6 billion to integrate Ixia. Now management wanted to partially disintegrate it? But Nersesian saw the logic. The security market was growing 20% annually, far faster than test and measurement. Keeping it separate would preserve its agility while leveraging Keysight's infrastructure. Validation and vindication. By late 2018, the Ixia acquisition was delivering beyond expectations. The network security division generated $200 million in revenue, growing 30% year over year. The protocol test business won major 5G contracts with Samsung, Nokia, and emerging Chinese equipment manufacturers. Most importantly, the combination capabilities, testing from physical layer through application layer, proved decisive in winning comprehensive 5G testing contracts. The deal projected $50 million in annual cost savings within 2 years, with revenue synergies expected to exceed $50 million in year 3 and reach $100 million by year 5. These weren't just PowerPoint promises. By fiscal 2019, the combined entity was delivering results that validated the acquisition thesis, the cultural catalyst. The true measure of the acquisition's success wasn't financial, it was cultural. Ixia's aggressive sales culture and Keysight's methodical engineering approach could have clashed catastrophically. Instead, they catalyzed each other. Ixia teams learned the value of patient, technical selling. Keysight teams absorbed Ixia's urgency and customer intimacy. The integration became a model for future acquisitions. Rather than imposing one culture on the other, Keysight created what Nersesian called cultural bridges, mixed teams working on joint projects, rotating leadership assignments, and shared innovation challenges. The company that had been spun off twice had finally learned how to bring others in. The Ixia acquisition marked Keysight's transformation from a test and measurement company to a technology enablement platform. But the biggest challenges and opportunities still lay ahead as 5G moved from laboratory curiosity to commercial reality.
Barcelona, February 2019, Mobile World Congress, the telecommunications industry's premier showcase. Inside Keysight's booth, a crowd gathered around what looked like a server rack covered in blinking lights and cables. But this wasn't just any demonstration. It was the industry's first live 5G new radio, NR call, using commercial chipsets, base stations, and test equipment. The measurement company had become the enabler of the next wireless revolution. Satish Dhanasekaran, who'd succeeded Ron Nersesian as CEO in May 2022, though this period covers his time as COO, stood nearby explaining to a Korean executive, "Every 5G call in the world will depend on measurements we're making possible today." It wasn't hyperbole. Keysight's instruments were literally defining what 5G meant establishing the benchmarks that separated functional from fantastic. The Infinium UXR revolution. While 5G captured headlines, a quieter revolution was occurring in Keysight's oscilloscope division. The Infinium UXR series, launched in 2019, represented a moonshot in measurement capability. 256 gigahertz of bandwidth, 10-bit analog-to-digital converters, and noise levels so low they approached theoretical limits. The price tag, over $500,000 for top configurations, seemed absurd until you realized the alternative was not measuring at all. The UXR's development story revealed Keysight's evolved innovation process. Rather than designing in isolation, the team spent 2 years embedded with customers developing next-generation semiconductors, optical communications, and quantum computers. They discovered that customers didn't just need more bandwidth, they needed to see signal integrity in ways previously impossible. The UXR wasn't just faster, it revealed signal characteristics that had been hiding in the noise floor for decades. Intel's validation labs adopted UXR oscilloscopes for their 7 nanometers and 5 nanometers process development. "We're seeing things we didn't know existed," one Intel engineer admitted. The instruments were so sensitive they had to be isolated from vibrations caused by people walking nearby. Keysight had built measurement tools that exceeded the precision of what they were measuring, a peculiar achievement that defined the company's technical moat. COVID's unexpected acceleration March in 2020 should have been catastrophic for a company dependent on R&D spending. As laboratories worldwide shut down and travel ceased, Keysight's traditional business model, selling expensive boxes to engineers who like to touch and test them, seemed doomed. The company's stock plummeted from $110 to $75 in 3 weeks. But something unexpected happened. The pandemic didn't reduce the need for electronic innovation. It accelerated it. Video conferencing stressed networks in unprecedented ways. Remote work exposed infrastructure weaknesses. The digitization of everything, education, healthcare, commerce, created urgent demand for more robust, higher-capacity networks. Keysight pivoted with surprising agility. Within 6 weeks, the company had created virtual demos. Engineers could remotely control instruments in Keysight labs, running their own tests from thousands of miles away. The Pathwave software platform, which had been a nice-to-have, became essential. Customers could simulate, design, and validate without touching hardware. The software transformation accelerated. Pathwave solutions enabled engineers to remove computational limitations across the workflow with cloud processing clusters to improve designs and device reliability, while reducing project risk. Revenue from software and services, which had been 20% of total revenue in 2019, jumped to 30% by late 2021. More importantly, software gross margins exceeded 85%, lifting Keysight's overall profitability even as hardware sales temporarily softened. The Eggplant acquisition. In June 2020, while competitors froze M&A activity, Keysight made another strategic acquisition. Eggplant, an AI-powered software testing platform for $330 million. The price seemed steep for a company with just $38 million in revenue, but Nersesian saw what others missed. As devices became software-defined, testing the hardware was only half the battle. You needed to test the user experience, the application layer, the entire digital journey. John Bates, Eggplant's CEO, brought Silicon Valley software DNA into Keysight's hardware-centric culture. His first presentation to Keysight engineers was revealing, "You test if a 5G signal reaches a phone. We test if grandma can actually make a video call to her grandchildren. Both matter." The acquisition wasn't just about adding capabilities. It was about changing perspective from measuring signals to measuring experiences. Automotive's hidden opportunity. While 5G and network infrastructure grabbed headlines, Keysight quietly built a dominant position in automotive electronics testing. The shift to electric vehicles and autonomous driving created unprecedented measurement challenges. A modern car had more lines of code than a fighter jet, hundreds of sensors, and mission-critical communication systems. Every component needed validation. Keysight's automotive solutions grew from $200 million in 2018 to over $500 million by 2021. The company didn't just sell instruments. It created digital twins of entire vehicles, allowing manufacturers to simulate millions of driving scenarios before building a single prototype. When Tesla needed to validate its full self-driving chip, when Waymo needed to test LiDAR systems, when traditional automakers scrambled to electrify, they all turned to Keysight. The chip shortage revelation. The 2021 semiconductor shortage revealed an unexpected truth about Keysight's business model. While chip manufacturers couldn't get enough capacity, they still needed to test every chip they could produce. In fact, testing became more critical. With supplies constrained, nobody could afford defective parts. Keysight's semiconductor test revenue grew 15%, even as global chip production declined. More importantly, the shortage accelerated the industry's shift toward known good die, chips tested at the wafer level before packaging. This required entirely new measurement approaches that Keysight had been developing for years. The company's parametric test systems, capable of testing hundreds of chips simultaneously at the wafer level, became essential infrastructure for semiconductor manufacturers. Preparing for transition. By early 2022, Ron Nersesian had led Keysight for 8 years, from spin-off through transformation into a software-centric, platform-based company. The stock had risen from $37 at independence to over $150. But Nersesian, now 62, knew the next phase required different leadership. The company needed someone who understood not just measurement, but the digital transformation reshaping every industry. The succession was carefully orchestrated. Satish Dhanasekaran, who joined as COO in 2020 after leading strategy at Xilinx, had spent 2 years learning every aspect of Keysight's business. His background, electrical engineering PhD, semiconductor expertise, software vision, perfectly matched Keysight's trajectory. In May 2022, the transition was announced. Dhanasekaran would become CEO, with Nersesian remaining as executive chairman. The timing was deliberate. With 5G deployment accelerating, automotive electronics exploding, and software becoming central to the business model, Keysight needed leadership that could navigate both technical complexity and market transformation. The measurement company was about to enter its most ambitious phase yet.
The quantum computer hummed at absolute zero, its dilution refrigerator looking more like modern art than scientific equipment. Inside IBM's Quantum Network Lab in Yorktown Heights, Keysight engineers worked alongside IBM's quantum team, developing control systems that could manipulate qubits, the fundamental units of quantum computing, with unprecedented precision. This wasn't science fiction. It was Keysight's newest frontier, and potentially its largest. Classical computing is reaching physical limits, Satish Dhanasekaran explained to investors in early 2023, now fully established as CEO. Quantum computing isn't just faster, it's fundamentally different. And every quantum computer needs classical control systems to function. We're building the bridge between quantum and classical worlds. The ESI Group acquisition. In June 2023, Keysight announced the acquisition of ESI Group for approximately 913 million euros, roughly $1 billion. ESI wasn't a test company. It created physics-based simulation software that could model everything from car crashes to manufacturing processes. The strategic logic was profound. Combine Keysight's real-world measurement with ESI's virtual prototyping, and you could validate designs before building anything physical. We're collapsing the boundary between simulation and reality, Dhanasekaran explained. ESI's software could simulate a car crash in detail. Every deformation, every stress point. Keysight's instruments could measure actual crash tests. Together, they could create digital twins so accurate that physical prototypes became almost redundant. For automotive manufacturers racing toward electric and autonomous vehicles, this wasn't just convenient, it was transformative. The Spirant Gambit. In March of 2024, Keysight announced its boldest acquisition yet. Spirant Communications for approximately $1.5 billion. Spirant, a UK-based testing specialist, had competed with Keysight for decades. Now they would combine, creating unprecedented market concentration in network testing. The deal immediately triggered regulatory scrutiny. Together, The companies would control 85% of high-speed Ethernet testing and over 60% of network security testing markets. The strategic rationale was compelling. Spirent brought capabilities in lifecycle service assurance and positioning technologies that Keysight lacked. More importantly, Spirent's customer base included hyperscalers and cloud providers that Keysight had struggled to penetrate. The combined company would touch every aspect of the connected world, from the chips in smartphones to the satellites providing GPS signals. But the regulatory challenges proved substantial. By December 2024, facing antitrust concerns, Keysight agreed to divest significant portions of Spirent's business to Viavi Solutions, including high-speed Ethernet testing and network security testing divisions. The divestitures represented about 40% of Spirent's revenue, a painful concession, but necessary to complete the transaction. The AI testing revolution. While M&A captured headlines, a quieter revolution was transforming Keysight's core business, artificial intelligence. Not AI as a product to test, but AI as a way to test. Traditional testing followed scripts. If X happens, check Y. But modern systems were too complex for predetermined scenarios. They needed testing that could adapt, learn, and discover failure modes humans couldn't anticipate. Keysight's AI-driven testing platform, launched in 2023, could generate millions of test scenarios autonomously. Testing a 5G base station traditionally required months of manual validation. The AI system could explore the entire parameter space in days, finding edge cases that would have taken years to discover manually. One customer discovered a critical vulnerability in their network equipment that only occurred when specific temperature, frequency, and load conditions aligned, a combination no human would have thought to test. Quantum computing's classical challenge. The quantum computing opportunity was perhaps Keysight's most forward-looking bet. Quantum computers required extraordinarily precise control systems, generating microwave pulses accurate to nanoseconds, maintaining coherence across dozens of qubits, correcting errors in real time. These weren't quantum problems. They were classical measurement and control challenges. Exactly Keysight's expertise. By 2024, Keysight had become the dominant provider of quantum control systems. The company's installation of the world's first commercial 1,000-qubit control system at Japan's AIST facility in July 2025 represented a watershed moment. This wasn't just a bigger system. It proved that quantum computers could scale to commercially relevant sizes while maintaining coherence. The partnerships revealed Keysight's strategy. Collaborate with every major quantum player, IBM, Google, Fujitsu, IQM, positioning itself as the Switzerland of quantum computing. While others fought over which qubit technology would win, Keysight built control systems that worked with all of them. 6G and the next horizon. Even as 5G deployment accelerated, Keysight was already defining 6G. The company's labs in Finland and Japan were testing terahertz frequencies, wavelengths so short they behaved more like light than radio waves. 6G wouldn't just be faster, it would enable capabilities that seemed like science fiction. Holographic communications, brain-computer interfaces, ambient computing where every surface could transmit data. The investment was massive. Over $500 million annually in 6G research by 2024. But the payoff was already visible. Every major telecommunications company relied on Keysight's instruments to explore 6G possibilities. The company that had enabled 5G's creation was positioning to own 6G's birth. The software transformation accelerates by fiscal 2024. Software and services represented 35% of Keysight's revenue, up from less than 10% at independence. More importantly, software gross margins exceeded 90%, lifting overall company profitability despite hardware market challenges. The annual recurring revenue, ARR, from software subscriptions exceeded $600 million, providing predictable cash flows that hardware sales never could. The transformation went beyond financial metrics. Keysight was becoming a different company, one that sold outcomes, not instruments. Customers didn't buy oscilloscopes. They bought the ability to validate designs. They didn't purchase network analyzers. They acquired confidence that their products would work. This shift from products to solutions commanded premium pricing and created switching costs that locked in customers for decades. Looking ahead, Donna Sekaran outlined an ambitious vision. Keysight would be the company that enabled every major technological transition of the 21st century. From 6G to quantum computing, from autonomous vehicles to AI systems, if it needed to be measured, validated, or optimized, Keysight would be there. The company that began in HP's garage measuring audio frequencies now stood ready to measure the quantum realm itself.
The conference room at Keysight's Santa Rosa headquarters feels more like a command center than a meeting space. Walls of screens display real-time data, software license renewals ticking upward, R&D projects progressing through phases, competitive win rates by geography. CFO Neil Dougherty stands before institutional investors, explaining what seems like alchemy. How a company selling million-dollar boxes maintains 65% gross margins and generates 20% free cash flow margins. Our business model is fundamentally misunderstood, Dougherty begins. People see expensive hardware and assume we're a capital equipment company. But dig deeper. Our fiscal 2024 revenue was $4.98 billion, but the real story is composition and recurrence. 35% is now software and services. 70% of customers buy from us repeatedly within 18 months. This isn't transactional, it's relational. The revenue architecture Keysight's revenue streams reveal sophisticated financial engineering. Hardware sales, those intimidating boxes of electronics, generate immediate cash but carry 55 to 60% gross margins, respectable but not spectacular. Software licenses, however, command 85 to 90% gross margins. Services, including calibration and support, deliver 70 to 75% margins with remarkable predictability. The genius lies in the bundling. A semiconductor manufacturer doesn't just buy a $500,000 wafer test system. They purchase PathWave software subscriptions for design validation, annual calibration services to maintain accuracy, and training programs for their engineers. The initial hardware sale might be $500,000, but the lifetime value exceeds $2 million. Consider the modular platform strategy. Traditional test equipment becomes obsolete every 5-7 years, forcing complete replacement. Keysight's modular systems allow incremental upgrades, add new measurement modules, update software capabilities, expand frequency ranges. A platform sold in 2015 can still test 6G signals today with appropriate upgrades. Customers stay in the Keysight ecosystem for decades, not years. Customer lock-in through complexity. The switching costs in test and measurement are extraordinary, but not for obvious reasons. It's not just the millions invested in equipment. It's the accumulated knowledge, the custom test scripts, the validated procedures, the regulatory certifications, all built around Keysight's instruments. An aerospace manufacturer explained their predicament. We have 10,000 test procedures written for Keysight equipment. Each took months to develop and validate. Switching vendors would mean rewriting everything, retraining everyone, recertifying with the FAA. The cost isn't the new equipment. It's the institutional knowledge we'd have to rebuild. This lock-in intensifies with complexity. As electronic systems grow more sophisticated, 5G networks, autonomous vehicles, quantum computers, the expertise required to test them becomes more specialized. Keysight doesn't just sell instruments. It provides application engineers who understand specific customer challenges. These engineers become embedded in customer organizations, part consultant, part support, part sales. R&D, the innovation imperative. Keysight invests 16% of revenue in R&D, nearly $800 million annually. This isn't discretionary, it's existential. Electronic technology evolves at Moore's law pace. Test equipment must evolve faster. You need to measure tomorrow's innovations today. The R&D strategy follows 3 parallel tracks. First, fundamental technology development, pushing the boundaries of measurement science. The UXR oscilloscope's 256 GHz bandwidth required breakthrough innovations in analog to digital conversion, signal processing, and noise reduction. These capabilities took 5 years and $200 million to develop. Second, application-specific solutions. Keysight maintains dedicated teams for each major market, 5G, automotive, aerospace, semiconductors. These teams don't just adapt existing products. They create entirely new measurement approaches. The automotive team developed battery cell testing solutions that can simulate a decade of charge cycles in weeks. The 5G team created network emulators that can replicate entire citywide deployments in a single rack. Third, software platform development. PathWave isn't just software. It's an ecosystem that connects design, simulation, and measurement. This required reimagining how engineers work, moving from sequential processes, design, build, test, to integrated workflows where simulation and measurement inform each other continuously. Geographic and market diversification. Keysight's geographic footprint provides resilience. Americas represents 45% of revenue. Asia-Pacific, 35%. Europe, 20%. This distribution isn't accidental. It mirrors global technology development. When U.S. defense spending slows, Asian 5G deployment accelerates. When Chinese customers face restrictions, European automotive compensates. The end market diversification is equally strategic. Communications, both commercial and aerospace, defense, represents 55% of revenue. Electronic industrial, 45%. Within these, no single customer exceeds 5% of revenue. This granularity protects against concentration risk while providing multiple growth vectors. The services transformation services revenue has quietly become Keysight's secret weapon. Annual calibration services provide predictable, high-margin revenue streams. Keysight Labs, where customers can rent time on cutting-edge equipment, generates utilization-based revenues while showcasing new capabilities. Training and certification programs create customer dependency while generating 80% gross margins. The masterstroke is Keysight Care, an integrated support program that combines hardware warranty, software updates, and application support. Customers pay annual fees for guaranteed uptime, priority support, and automatic upgrades. It's insurance, subscription, and lock-in combined. Renewal rates exceed 90%. Competitive dynamics and differentiation. The competitive landscape reveals Keysight's moats. Tektronix, the nearest competitor in oscilloscopes, has one-third Keysight's R&D budget. Rohde & Schwarz excels in specific niches but lacks Keysight's breadth. National Instruments targets lower-end, software-defined applications. Chinese competitors like Rigol compete on price but lack advanced capabilities. The real competition isn't other test companies, it's customer self-sufficiency. Some large technology companies attempt to build internal test capabilities, but the complexity and cost of staying current usually drives them back to Keysight. As one customer admitted, "We spent $50 million trying to build our own 5G test platform. We could have bought Keysight's solution for $10 million and had it work immediately." Capital allocation excellence. Keysight's capital allocation reveals disciplined financial management. The company generates approximately $1 billion in annual free cash flow. This funds strategic acquisitions, averaging $500 million annually, dividends, $200 million, and opportunistic share buybacks, $300 million. The balance sheet remains conservative with net debt to EBITDA below 2x, providing flexibility for large acquisitions. The acquisition strategy follows clear criteria: strategic fit, technology differentiation, and revenue synergies. The Ixia acquisition added network visibility capabilities. Eggplant brought AI-powered software testing. ESI Group added simulation. Each expanded Keysight's addressable market while leveraging existing customer relationships. The platform network effects. As Keysight's platform grows, network effects intensify. More customers using PathWave means more shared libraries, test procedures, and best practices. The community becomes self-reinforcing. Customers help each other solve problems, share innovations, and validate approaches. Leaving means abandoning not just tools but communities. This platform approach extends to partnerships. Keysight's instruments integrate with design tools from Cadence and Synopsys, manufacturing systems from Applied Materials, and enterprise software from SAP. These integrations create an ecosystem where Keysight becomes infrastructure, not just equipment.
The ultimate moat is measurement truth. In a world of increasing complexity, someone must define what constitutes accurate measurement. Keysight's instruments become the standard against which others are calibrated. When disputes arise about whether a 5G signal meets specifications, Keysight's measurements arbitrate. This position as the arbiter of measurement truth is perhaps the deepest moat of all.
The whiteboard in Ron Nersesian's former office, now preserved as a monument to strategic thinking, still displays the equation he sketched in 2014, focus equals sign value through. Below it, a simple diagram shows HP dividing into Agilent splitting to create Keysight, each division smaller but more valuable than what came before. The math seems to defy physics. How can dividing multiply value? Every corporate strategy textbook says diversification reduces risk, reflects Nersesian, now executive chairman. But in technology, diversification often increases risk by diluting focus. We proved that sometimes the best way to grow is to shrink your scope. The power of focus. The 3-time spin-off that created Keysight offers a masterclass in strategic focus. Each separation wasn't just organizational, and it was philosophical. HP in the 1990s tried to be everything: computers, printers, test equipment, medical devices. Resources flowed to the fastest-growing segments, PCs and printers, starving the original business, test and measurement of investment. The first lesson, in technology markets, focus beats diversification. A focused company makes faster decisions, allocates resources more efficiently, and maintains clearer strategic vision. Keysight's engineers don't compete with printer divisions for R&D dollars. Sales teams don't juggle conflicting priorities. Management doesn't referee resource battles between unrelated businesses. But focus alone doesn't create value. The key is choosing the right focus. Keysight didn't just inherit test and measurement, it redefined it. Rather than competing broadly, the company concentrated on high-frequency, high-performance applications where technical barriers created defensible moats. This wasn't shrinking to survive. It was focusing to dominate. M&A as capability-building. Keysight's acquisition strategy contradicts conventional M&A wisdom. The company doesn't buy for scale or cost synergies. It acquires capabilities that would take too long to build internally. Each acquisition fills a specific gap in the technology stack or customer workflow. The Ixia acquisition illustrates this approach. Keysight could have built network visibility capabilities internally, but it would have taken 5 years and might have failed. Buying Ixia brought immediate capability, established customer relationships, and proven technology. The $1.6 billion price seemed high, but building similar capabilities would have cost more with higher risk. The integration philosophy is equally distinctive. Rather than forcing acquired companies into existing structures, Keysight preserves what makes them unique while providing resources they lacked. Ixia kept its aggressive sales culture. Eggplant maintained its software-first mentality. ESI Group retained its simulation expertise. Integration happens at the customer interface, unified solutions from diverse capabilities. Technology transition navigation. Every major technology transition, analog to digital, hardware to software, 4G to 5G, threatens established players. Keysight has survived multiple transitions through a consistent playbook. Anticipate, invest early, and cannibalize yourself before others do. The software transformation exemplifies this approach. In 2015, Keysight generated less than 10% of revenue from software. The easy path was protecting hardware margins. Instead, the company invested aggressively in software capabilities, even when it cannibalized hardware sales. By 2024, software represented 35% of revenue at much higher margins. The company cannibalized itself into higher profitability. The key insight: technology transitions are inevitable. The choice isn't whether to adapt, but when and how. Early movers shape the transition, late movers react to it. Keysight's early investment in 5G testing didn't just prepare for the transition, it influenced how 5G developed. Capital allocation discipline. Keysight's capital allocation framework balances growth investment with shareholder returns. The hierarchy is clear. First, invest in organic R&D to maintain technology leadership. Second, pursue strategic acquisitions that expand capabilities. Third, return excess capital through dividends and buybacks. This discipline shows an acquisition criteria. Keysight walks away from deals that don't meet strategic thresholds, regardless of financial metrics. The company passed on several network equipment testing companies that offered cost synergies but lacked technology differentiation. Conversely, it paid premium prices for unique capabilities like Ixia's network visibility and ESI's simulation expertise. The company maintains financial flexibility for opportunistic moves. Conservative leverage, net debt to EBITDA below 2x, provides capacity for large acquisitions. Strong free cash flow generation, 20% margins, funds ongoing investment without dilution. This financial strength becomes competitive advantage. Keysight can move quickly when opportunities arise. Culture as strategy. The cultural transformation from HP's consensus-driven approach to Keysight's speed, focus, accountability wasn't just organizational change, and it was strategic positioning. In fast-moving technology markets, speed matters more than perfection. The company that defines standards wins, even if those standards evolve. This cultural shift enabled strategic moves that wouldn't have been possible under HP's culture. The Ixia acquisition decision happened in weeks, not months. The 5G investment preceded market certainty. The quantum computing commitment came before commercial viability. Each decision required speed and risk-taking that the old culture wouldn't have permitted. But culture isn't just about speed. It's about alignment. Every Keysight employee understands the mission: enable customers to innovate faster. This clarity eliminates organizational friction. Engineers know why they're building products. Salespeople understand value propositions. Support teams recognize their role in customer success. Ecosystem orchestration. Keysight doesn't just participate in ecosystems, it orchestrates them. The company's 5G labs, quantum research partnerships, and automotive consortiums create collaborative environments where competitors become partners. This positions Keysight as neutral ground where industry advancement happens. The strategy is subtle but powerful. By hosting collaboration, Keysight sees technology developments before they commercialize. The company influences standards, shapes specifications, and understands requirements before building products. This early visibility reduces development risk and accelerates time to market. The platform paradox. The evolution to platform-based business models created an interesting paradox. Platforms typically require scale. More users create more value. But Keysight serves specialized markets with limited customers. How do you build platform effects with thousands, not millions of users? The answer? Depth over breadth. Keysight's platforms don't need millions of casual users. They need thousands of power users who depend on the platform daily. These users contribute expertise, share solutions, and create knowledge that makes the platform indispensable. Quality trumps quantity in professional platforms. Competitive positioning through complexity. Keysight's competitive strategy embraces complexity rather than avoiding it. While competitors simplify products for broader markets, Keysight adds capabilities for specialized applications. This seems counterintuitive. Complexity usually reduces addressable markets. But in test and measurement, complexity creates moats. The customers who need to test 256 gigahertz signals or validate quantum control systems have few alternatives. They'll pay premium prices for unique capabilities. By serving the most complex requirements, Keysight becomes indispensable to technology leaders who influence broader markets. The spin-off template. The triple spin-off that created Keysight provides a template for value creation through separation. The key requirements: clear strategic rationale, capable independent management, sufficient scale to operate standalone, and distinct investment requirements. When these align, separation can unlock tremendous value. But timing matters. Each spin-off occurred when the businesses had diverged enough that combination destroyed rather than created value. HP's test and measurement division needed different investment than PC manufacturing. Agilent's electronic measurement required different capabilities than life sciences. Waiting too long reduces value. Moving too early lacks rationale. Future-proofing. Through adjacencies, Keysight's expansion into adjacent markets, from pure test into design software, from measurement into simulation, provides resilience against disruption. Each adjacency leverages existing capabilities while opening new growth vectors. The company isn't abandoning its core, it's expanding what the core means. This adjacency strategy follows consistent patterns. Start with customer needs that existing products partially address. Acquire or develop capabilities to fully address those needs. Integrate new capabilities with existing strengths. Result, solutions that competitors can't match because they lack the complementary pieces. The ultimate lesson from Keysight's playbook? In technology markets, focus and flexibility aren't contradictory. They're complementary. Focus on core capabilities provides the foundation for flexible expansion into adjacencies. Strategic discipline enables opportunistic action. The company that seems to do one thing actually does many things, all connected by the thread of enabling customer innovation.
The spreadsheet on the analyst's screen tells two different stories. Fiscal 2024. Revenue of $4.98 billion, down 8.9% year over year. Net income of $614 million, down 42.4%. The numbers suggest a company in decline. But scroll down to the forward indicators: design win momentum, software ARR growth, 6G engagement levels, and a different narrative emerges. This is the Keysight paradox. Current results reflect yesterday's markets while the company builds tomorrow's infrastructure. The mistake investors make. Explains a portfolio manager who's owned Keysight since the spinoff, is viewing this as a cyclical hardware company. Yes, revenues fluctuate with R&D spending, but the underlying value compounds through technology transitions. We're not buying this year's earnings. We're buying the next decade's innovation enablement. Market position dynamics. Keysight's market position reveals both dominance and vulnerability. In high-performance test and measurement, the company faces limited competition. The UXR oscilloscope has no true equivalent. The quantum control systems operate in a class of one. The 5G network emulators define industry standards. In these segments, Keysight commands 50 to 70% market share with pricing power that reflects technical superiority. But the broader market presents challenges. In general-purpose instruments, competition intensifies from Asian manufacturers offering good enough performance at fraction of the price. In software-defined testing, companies like National Instruments appeal to cost-conscious customers. The risk isn't losing high-end markets, but missing the expansion of mid-market segments. The geographic dynamics add complexity. Asia-Pacific, representing 35% of revenue, faces geopolitical uncertainties. Chinese customers, particularly in 5G and semiconductors, confront expanding restrictions. Yet this region drives the most aggressive technology development. Balancing opportunity with risk requires careful navigation. Financial performance trajectory. The fiscal 2024 results require context. The revenue decline reflects post-pandemic normalization, not structural weakness. During COVID, massive infrastructure investment drove unsustainable growth. The current softness represents digestion of that capacity, not reduced innovation investment. More revealing are the mix shifts within declining revenues. Software and services grew even as hardware contracted. Recurring revenue increased despite transaction weakness. Gross margins expanded through mix improvement even with lower volumes. The company used the downturn to restructure for higher profitability. Looking ahead, management guides to first quarter fiscal 2025 revenue of $1.285 billion, suggesting stabilization. The order book shows green shoots. 6G development accelerating, automotive electronics recovering, AI infrastructure driving new requirements. The trough appears behind, though recovery may be gradual. Bull case. Innovation. Infrastructure. The bull case rests on Keysight's position as essential innovation infrastructure. Every major technology trend, 6G, quantum computing, AI, autonomous vehicles, requires validation and optimization. As complexity increases, measurement becomes more critical. Keysight doesn't compete for budget share. It enables the budgets to exist. The software transformation multiplies this value. Traditional hardware sales were transactional. Buy once, use for years. Software subscriptions create recurring relationships. A customer who spends $1 million on hardware might generate $3 million in lifetime software and service revenues. This isn't just revenue model transformation. It's relationship transformation. The strategic acquisitions enhance competitive position. Spirent brings lifecycle service assurance capabilities that complete Keysight's network portfolio. ESI Group adds simulation that bridges virtual and physical testing. Each acquisition doesn't just add revenue. It adds customer value that increases switching costs and pricing power. The 6G opportunity alone could drive decade-long growth. While 5G deployment continues, 6G research accelerates. Keysight's early investment positions it to capture disproportionate share of a market that could exceed $5 billion by 2030. The company that enabled 5G's creation will likely enable 6G's birth. Quantum computing presents even larger opportunities. Keysight has established itself as the first commercial control system vendor to deliver a system supporting 1000+ qubits. As quantum computers scale toward commercial viability, control system requirements grow exponentially. This isn't a science project. It's the foundation of a new computing paradigm. Bear case: cyclical pressures and disruption risks. The bear case acknowledges near-term pressures. R&D spending remains constrained across industries. Enterprise customers delay capital equipment purchases amid economic uncertainty. The semiconductor industry, a major customer segment, faces persistent weakness. Recovery timing remains uncertain. Competition intensifies from unexpected directions. Cloud providers develop internal test capabilities. AI-powered testing might reduce the need for traditional instruments. Software-defined approaches could commoditize hardware differentiation. The moats that seemed impregnable might erode faster than expected. Integration risks from recent acquisitions loom large. The Spirent deal faces regulatory challenges, requiring asset divestitures that dilute strategic value. ESI Group's integration proceeds slowly, with cultural differences hampering synergy realization. The acquisition strategy that drove growth might become a distraction. Technological disruption presents existential risks. What if quantum computing doesn't materialize commercially? What if 6G takes a different technical direction? What if AI makes traditional testing obsolete? Keysight's concentrated bets on specific technologies create vulnerability if those bets prove wrong. The valuation already reflects significant optimism. At 25x forward earnings, Keysight trades at premium multiples despite cyclical weakness. The market prices in successful execution of the software transformation, acquisition integration, and technology transitions. Disappointment on any front could trigger multiple compression. Valuation framework. Valuing Keysight requires blending frameworks. As a hardware company, it might warrant 15-18x earnings, reflecting cyclicality and capital intensity. As a software company, 25-30x earnings seems appropriate, given recurring revenues and high margins. The reality lies between a hybrid model transforming toward software but anchored in hardware heritage. Discounted cash flow analysis suggests fair value of $180-200 per share, assuming mid-single-digit revenue growth, margin expansion through mix shift, and sustained R&D investment. This implies 15-20% upside from current levels, reasonable but not compelling. The key variable is transformation pace. If software reaches 50% of revenue by 2028, margins could expand 300-500 basis points, justifying premium valuations. If transformation stalls, multiple compression could offset fundamental improvement. The stock price reflects this tension, volatile around quarterly results but trending with transformation progress. Risk-reward assessment. The investment case balances compelling long-term positioning against near-term uncertainty. Keysight owns critical positions in essential markets with expanding moats and improving economics. But execution risks, integration challenges, and cyclical pressures create volatility. For long-term investors, Keysight offers exposure to major technology themes through a picks and shovels approach. You don't need to predict which quantum computing approach wins or which 6G standard prevails. If innovation continues, measurement remains essential. For value investors, the current weakness might present opportunity. The market extrapolates recent struggles while missing inflection signals. Order patterns improve, software momentum builds, and strategic position strengthens. Patient capital could be rewarded as cycles turn. For growth investors, the transformation story compels. A traditional hardware company becoming a software-centric platform in massive markets offers multiple expansion potential. The acquisitions accelerate this transformation, though integration execution remains critical. The investment decision Keysight represents a complex investment proposition. Neither pure growth nor deep value, neither simple hardware nor pure software. It's a transformation story playing out over years, not quarters. The company building the infrastructure for tomorrow's innovations while managing today's cyclical pressures. The prudent approach might be staged accumulation, building positions during weakness while monitoring transformation progress. The company's strategic position seems unassailable, but the path to value realization remains uncertain. For investors who believe in technology's continued advancement and value patient capital, Keysight offers compelling exposure to innovation's enablement. The ultimate question isn't whether Keysight succeeds, it's when the market recognizes that success. The company measuring everything else must ultimately be measured by its ability to transform vision into value. That measurement continues, one quarter, one acquisition, one innovation at a time.
The garage at 367 Addison Avenue stands empty now, a monument frozen in time. The workbench where Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard built their first oscillator has been carefully preserved, down to the scattered resistors and hand-drawn circuit diagrams. Tourists snap photos, reading placards about the birthplace of Silicon Valley. But few realize that the company that began here hasn't ended. It's just been transformed beyond recognition. Ron Nersesian stands in that garage on a gray December morning in 2024, 10 years after leading Keysight's independence. He's giving a private tour to new engineering graduates, a tradition he started to connect Keysight's future with HP's past. Bill and Dave didn't set out to create a trillion-dollar technology ecosystem, he tells them. They just wanted to measure audio frequencies accurately. But that obsession with measurement precision created something larger. What would the founders think? The question haunts every Keysight executive. What would Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard make of their company's journey? The optimistic view sees vindication. Their test and measurement business didn't disappear through corporate reshuffling. It concentrated and intensified. The company that started by measuring audio frequencies now measures quantum states. The progression seems natural, even inevitable. But the founders might struggle with the financial engineering. 3 spin-offs, billion-dollar acquisitions funded by debt, software subscriptions instead of hardware sales. The HP way emphasized stability, consensus, lifetime employment. Keysight operates with urgency, making bold bets that risk failure. The culture has evolved from careful stewardship to aggressive innovation. Yet the core mission endures, enabling others to innovate. HP's oscillators enabled Disney's Fantasia. Keysight's instruments enable 5G networks, autonomous vehicles, quantum computers. The tools changed, the purpose remained. Perhaps Bill and Dave would appreciate that their deepest values, technical excellence, customer focus, measurement integrity, survived multiple corporate transformations. Surprises and counterintuitive insights. The Keysight story defies conventional wisdom repeatedly. Spinning off from a larger parent should reduce scale advantages. Instead, it enhanced focus that proved more valuable. Competing against larger rivals should limit R&D capacity. But concentrated investment proved more effective than distributed spending. Serving narrow markets should constrain growth. Yet specialization created pricing power that broader competitors couldn't match. The most counterintuitive insight, sometimes destruction creates value. Each spin-off destroyed something. Organizational structure, brand equity, scale economies. But the destruction cleared ground for creation. Freed from HP's bureaucracy, Agilent could pivot toward life sciences. Released from Agilent's portfolio, Keysight could bet everything on 5G and quantum. Destruction wasn't the goal, but the necessary precondition for rebirth. Another surprise, complexity as competitive advantage. Business strategy typically emphasizes simplification. Focus on core competencies, reduce complexity, streamline operations. Keysight did the opposite, embracing complexity that others avoided. The hardest measurements, the most sophisticated algorithms, the most integrated solutions. Complexity that customers couldn't handle became Keysight's specialization. The software transformation surprised even insiders. Hardware engineers who spent careers building physical instruments now develop algorithms and user interfaces. The company that prided itself on tangible products generates increasing value from intangible code. This wasn't planned. It emerged from customer needs. The transformation happened not through top-down mandate, but bottom-up innovation. Lessons for founders and operators. The Keysight journey offers powerful lessons for technology leaders. First, timing matters more than strategy. Each major decision, the spin-offs, the 5G investment, the acquisition spree, succeeded partly through fortunate timing. Moving earlier or later might have failed. Strategy provides direction, but timing determines success. Second, focus enables flexibility. This seems paradoxical. Specialization should reduce options. But Keysight's deep expertise in measurement created adjacent opportunities. Because the company understood measurement deeply, it could extend into simulation, software, and services. Depth in one domain became breadth across related domains. Third, culture must evolve with strategy. The HP way worked for a diversified conglomerate pursuing steady growth. Keysight needed different cultural attributes, speed, risk-taking, accountability, to compete as a focused specialist. Preserving culture would have preserved mediocrity. Evolution enabled excellence. Fourth, customer relationships trump technology advantages. Keysight's instruments are technically superior, but that's not why customers stay loyal. They stay because Keysight engineers understand their problems, contribute to their success, and evolve with their needs. Technology provides the foundation, but relationships create the moat. Fifth, platforms beat products in professional markets. Consumer platforms need millions of users. Professional platforms need thousands of committed participants. Keysight built the latter. Communities of engineers who share knowledge, solve problems together, and advance collective capability. The platform's value exceeds any individual product. The future of measurement. In an AI world looking forward, artificial intelligence poses existential questions for Keysight. If AI can predict system behavior without measurement, do we still need instruments? If machine learning can optimize designs automatically, do engineers need test equipment? The questions challenge Keysight's fundamental purpose, but AI might enhance rather than replace measurement. AI systems require training data, measurements of real-world behavior. Machine learning models need validation, confirmation that predictions match reality. As systems become more autonomous, understanding their behavior becomes more critical. Measurement doesn't disappear, it evolves. Keysight's response reveals strategic clarity. Rather than resisting AI, the company embraces it. AI-powered instruments that adapt testing to discovered patterns. Machine learning algorithms that identify anomalies humans would miss. Automated optimization that accelerates development cycles. Keysight isn't being disrupted by AI, it's becoming AI-enhanced. The quantum opportunity represents another frontier. As quantum computers approach commercial viability, measurement challenges multiply. How do you verify quantum calculations when classical computers can't replicate them? How do you maintain coherence across thousands of qubits? How do you interface quantum and classical systems? These aren't just technical challenges, Mike. They're measurement challenges that define Keysight's future. The perpetual transformation. The most profound insight from Keysight's journey. Transformation never ends. The company that emerged from HP transformed through Agilent, transformed again as independent Keysight, and continues transforming today. Each phase required different capabilities, strategies, and cultures. Success didn't create stability. It demanded continued evolution. This perpetual transformation challenges traditional corporate thinking. Companies typically seek steady states, establish strategy, build capabilities, optimize operations. Keysight operates in permanent transition, always becoming something new. Yesterday's achievements become today's foundations for tomorrow's transformations. The measurement metaphor resonates. Keysight measures the electronic world, but measurement isn't static observation. It's active engagement, probing, testing, validating. The company embodies its purpose, constantly measuring itself against evolving standards, adjusting calibration, improving precision. Full circle. As Nersesian concludes his garage tour, he points to a modern Keysight instrument displayed next to HP's original oscillator. The contrast is stark: vacuum tubes versus semiconductors, analog meters versus digital displays, manual adjustments versus software control. Yet the continuity is clear. Both instruments serve the same purpose: making the invisible visible, the uncertain certain, the theoretical practical. This isn't just corporate history, Nersesian tells the young engineers. It's Silicon Valley history, technology history, innovation history. Every breakthrough, from the transistor to the internet to AI, required measurement to move from idea to reality. We don't make the breakthroughs. We make the breakthroughs possible. The engineers disperse, returning to labs where they're developing instruments for technologies that don't yet exist. 7G communications, room temperature quantum computers, brain-computer interfaces, the future's measurement challenges. They carry forward a legacy that began with 2 Stanford graduates and $538, transformed through multiple corporate incarnations, and continues evolving today. The garage remains empty, but its spirit lives in every Keysight facility worldwide. The company that began by measuring audio frequencies now measures humanity's technological ambitions, from HP's garage to quantum laboratories, from vacuum tubes to quantum states, from a workshop to the world. The measurement continues precise as ever, enabling innovations that Bill and Dave could never have imagined but would certainly have measured. This podcast is brought to you by Empor.top, the stories of top companies. Disclaimer: this AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.